Hello, welcome to the Million Mom Movement, Lunch and Learn. My name is Carmela Velarde. It is Wednesday, May 17th, and we're really excited to dive deep into a hot topic, which is getting your gut health in order. So there's so many itises that fall under this umbrella of what could happen to your gut health. And we have 4 incredible stories that we're going to be sharing with you today. Taz Ferreira is my co-host, and we both have clients who we've personally been working with. We've helped them also reverse their gut health as well as our own story as well. So, and really why we want to talk about this as a true solution to the glyphosate toxicity in our environment is there are so many digestive disorders accounted for as of 2020. Over 375,000 deaths are accounted for specifically for digestive disorders, 215,000 deaths in men, and 160,000 deaths in women. So a new survey in the American Gastroenterology Association last year found that 40% of Americans' daily lives are disrupted by digestive distress. That's about 60 to 80 million Americans truly suffering. And do they know where to go and what to really look towards besides the Western route? So here at the Million Mom Movement, we definitely want to dive deep into the questions about, why is this such a high incidence factor? And it's rising. And what are the toxins in our environment that are causing these issues? So I wanted to start off with an in the news piece with a recent article that was published last week. And if you put a 3 in the chat, if you've heard about the Appeal product that's backed by Bill Gates. I'm just curious if you guys have heard a little bit about it. We like to bring things that are current to the forefront. Okay, great. So this article is incredible. It's loaded with studies directly connecting us to the additives, preservatives, emulsifiers. Appeal is essentially an emulsifier. And the article is called, What Are We Doing? What Are They Doing to Our Fruits and Veggies? More Poisoning of the People by Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. And we're honoring gut health because there are so many toxins that we're allowing into our country. And what do we do about it? What is it that, what can we do? So if you had not heard about this Appeal, it's a California-based company since about 2012. It is an additive that is used to prolong the, where is this? Now I want it to be read direct from them here. It's a coating, it's described as a surface finishing agent. So it's an edible physical barrier that locks in moisture and blocks the oxidative stress of oxygen for fruits and vegetables. It doubles the lifespan of harvested fruits and veggies without refrigeration. So right there, to me, it doesn't sound too natural or it's questionable. And originally, it is a mixture of food grade that comes direct from grapeseed oil. So it's also known as MAG-DAG, which is monoglyceride and diglyceride, and the food additive E471. So these are actually categorized as food additives, even though it is made from nature. So this emulsifier is playing a major role in intestinal inflammation, which is why we're talking about it today, because it's only growing in use. And the chemicals that are connected have been concerns for how they play a role in the development of Crohn's disease. So if you open this up, it is a direct connection of how these emulsifiers, which is essentially what Appeal is made of, explains the rising incidences of Crohn's. So I'm going to put the article in the chat. I think it's important for you guys to draw the dots between what's happening and all the numbers rising. And we're going to go deeper into how each individual gut health issue has affected all of us similarly, but it's just a little bit more specific of how it manifests. So let's just get into it. I'm going to share screen. Hang on a moment. Sorry, just bear with me there. Where is my share screen? There we go. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so there's a significance of gut health issues, and it's cannot be overstated why it's important to talk about this. It is our first brain, and it plays a vital role in our overall vitality and health. It's also known as a gastrointestinal tract, which is also part of our digestive system, but there's a strong gut hormone connection called the estrobolome, which is a specific gut bacteria that's devoted to processing and eliminating estrogen from the body, and it balances your hormones. Dopamine and serotonin are very commonly known as, a place where it governs the mood and mental health, and it's built in the gut microbiome. So the significance of us talking about the issues and how we can, in fact, get a hold of our balance of our microbiome flora through lifestyle. So we're going to be sharing incredible stories on leaky gut, Crohn's disease, colitis, SIBO, and then we're going to offer you some recommendations. So let's just start out. And so Taz Barrera, she's a functional medical doctor. She's my colleague in the Million Mom Movement Council. And we're just going to riff off of this information here about how we're going to present, well, what is the gut? And what is its role in digestion and hormone health? What is the good bacteria versus the bad bacteria? And what truly are the risks? Before we go into testimonials, Taz, I'd love to open it to you to just let's talk about gut health together.
Well, gut health is so important. And the more we start connecting to our gut of everything we develop in life, from eczema to Crohn's to colitis to all the other issues, is all related to gut health, right? Even our skin issues, everything we go through, we need to start connecting it to what our gut is going through. What is it not absorbing? What is it missing? What's happening?
Absolutely. And its role in digestion, apart from the digestion of food, is the real assimilation of it into energy. So many of us don't connect how we feel to what we're eating. We're so disconnected from also how it affects our hormones. So guys, the role is about thinking about how it is, in fact, our barrier to the outside world. So what are you letting into your temple every single day, including in your home environment, including in the food that you choose to eat, in choosing where the food comes from? That's such an important part of energetic consumption. And it actually affects the gut when there's very low vibration, because those low vibration foods with no nutrients or no live living microorganisms with a variety of lush biodiversity, we're very stagnant and we're very congested, and there's a lot of the cancer, the cellular death happening. So the good versus bad here. So maybe Taz, we're going to be talking about a lot of, uplifting stories, definitely uplifting, because it had to come from a very deep suffering place. So just talk about the bad versus the good bacteria and how there is a balance that can be achieved.
Absolutely. But this is an important why on the Million Mom Movement call, Fierce Friday, on Fridays, that we always stress the toxin that came to dinner. Because in America, we allow so much glyphosate into our food. And what glyphosate does, it ruins all of the good bacteria. We are built on bacteria. Bacteria is not the bad thing. It's letting in the bad bacteria. Once we start killing all of our bacteria, now we have allowed all of the pathogens in, and that becomes a pathogen overload. And that's when we get all forms of autoimmune diseases.
Absolutely. And there's so many things that can kind of trigger the bad too, like antibiotics. We're going to talk about that. Specifically, we're talking about glyphosate. And, glyphosate was patented as an antibiotic for the soil. So it makes the soil infertile. And what do you think that does to our own microbiome? So many women are becoming infertile. So the imbalance results from what we're thinking is the right thing to be doing for our health, but it results in many imbalances that have just been proven over time. It's only raising the instances. So the top 8 digestive issues in the United States just this past last year, and Taz said she had gone through the first one, was GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Then there's gallstones, celiac disease and gluten. Crohn's disease is way up there. Ulcerative colitis also up there. IBS, hemorrhoids, and diverticulitis. So that's really the risks. This is what's happening. The incidence of these 8 very common imbalances are everywhere right now. And we're going to be talking about a few of them that we've actually been able to overcome, and we'll tell you what we did. And you'll see a thread that weaves through all of our testimonials and shares. Okay. So let's get into it. The first topic is leaky gut. Of course, you have to start with this topic because the statistic was alarming to me, just the percentage that existed for people with leaky gut at this time. It's 80 to 90% of Americans have some form of intestinal distress with their gut microbiome. And what leaky gut, this is truly the cycle of the leaky gut syndrome. So when I was very young, so I'm a mom of 2, of a 9 and a 12-year-old. When I started out as a young girl, I immediately had atopic dermatitis, allergies, and around 3, 4 years old, this was already happening to me. Food triggered inflammation in my joints. And for being that young and remembering that, it makes me realize just how painful it must have been, or aware. I was very self-aware. And at that age, children should not be going through these things. But there were just aspects of my diet that I didn't realize were actually doing me more intestinal damage. And they did not draw the line directly to how that inflammation was caused. So essentially, the root was never really found. So they continued to Band-Aid and Band-Aid, like topical dermatological things. They didn't find any parasites through a gastrointestinal, like a endoscopy as a child. I remember having one young, because I had so many allergies. And I had, over the weekends, for 3 years, immunizational shots of all the allergens that I was allergic to, hoping that that would be a course of action to reduce my inflammation from the sensitivities in the world. But truly, when you have leaky gut, we have intestinal wall that lines the entire huge surface area if you open it up. And it's only made up of very thin layers of cells. And within the cells, there are little doors called junctions, and they effectively screen what's allowed into the bloodstream. So it's actually a barrier to protect us from the bloodstream. So these junctions are the gateway between you and the outside world. And as an analogy, there are bouncers at the door that keep out the bad stuff. But essentially, when you have leaky gut, like a chemical come into your gut microbiome through maybe additives, preservatives, metals, any chemicals, they actually break these junctions, and then the undigested food particles travel into the bloodstream and create an inflammatory cytokine storm, which is inflammation. I had so much inflammation when I was a child that all my joints were red and itchy. I would be itching them all the time. And when I was very young, I did modeling and I was on stage, and I was always so embarrassed. It really affected my mental health too, anxiety. So at a young age, I remember these things. So it was clearly a disruption in my nature. And so when the gut lining then opens these junctions, how is it that it can't decipher what is what in your body? It just immediately thinks it's firing off against an invader. So I had that constantly going on every time I would eat processed sugar, which I was so addicted to in the 80s, and all the chemicals in the foods that were allowed at that time. My ancestors did not eat that. So I had intense intestinal inflammation. I was hospitalized twice. Mainly for just to sedate the heat. So they put steroids in to cool. Imagine that, steroids, but it actually had worked. It suppressed my immune system, and it led me to autoimmune conditions. So I had been diagnosed with the leaky gut only recently, but prior to that, ADHD. So I was on the spectrum, it really affected the cloudiness of my clarity, my mental clarity. Hashimoto's, I had borderline Hashimoto's and borderline lupus. So it did spiral there. Food tolerances, everything that was an inflammatory food that was not alkaline upset me, especially dairy. As soon as I took dairy and gluten out of my diet, it really shifted the way my processing center absorbed. And I immediately felt that. And hold on a moment. On the other side here, well, nutrient malabsorption. That's where Purium came in. That was my literally like that saving grace. Because had I not found something that's available every day as a food, but it's my medicine, it has the alkalinity, the power of the alkalinity is what keeps the environment of the inflammation down and able to repair itself and regenerate. So without that, the access to that, it for 30 plus years, I was suffering with this, and that nutrient malabsorption went away. I was able to absorb my food, and I felt the difference of my healing, my body actually healing. So it's a powerful program that we have. And so intestinal hyperpermeability is also what it's known for. And 2000 years ago, Hippocrates had said that all disease begins in the gut. And it's only now that we're seeing all the studies and thousands of papers on this subject matter. Just the past 7 to 8 years, people truly understand that leaky gut was a root cause, and they never drew the line prior to that. So we're very much pioneering this way of healing the body through gut health. So it is the root cause, and the gut-brain connection axis addresses how many people right now have leaky gut and have mental illness as it's rising in teenagers and in children. It's truly because these children have leaky gut, and this permeability, we can absolutely create some incredible testimonials for you, because myself, I was able to lose 30 pounds, balance my hormones, which would never stay balanced. Since I was 12 years old up until 35, I always had very intense mood swings, cravings, bloating, abdominal bloating. Going through the cycles of the hormones was so physically intense. And I was extremely tired. All of this, as soon as I started doing the 30-day ultimate lifestyle transformation, what it was back then, it shifted everything. I was able to feel my food and receive the nutrients that gave me the energy. I literally felt like I was narcoleptic my whole childhood, because I was so deficient. And I knew that when I healed the gut, that other aspects of my mental clarity and my health, my awareness, it all changed. So it is truly the root to mental clarity. And for me, it was also thyroid and hormone balance. That was my primary experience with healing my leaky gut. And since then, I just need to tell more people about it. More people who are going through this, they don't realize the connection. So, Taz, would you like to? Yeah.
So I love what you're saying. And, if you go on social media, we are bombarded by so many people talking about solutions here and there for leaky gut, right? I would love to know which other modalities that you tried, because I'm sure you tried other modalities before actually finding a solution that actually worked. So can you talk to us a little bit about the other modalities that you tried?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, my parents never did prescription medications. So even with ADHD, they never got the prescription for Ritalin or Adderall, although I was prescribed those things. And then I started looking up what they were. And my parents and I decided it was absolutely not for me. So I knew it was out there available for what they thought I had, but I just didn't connect with it. Until I really went into becoming a holistic practitioner, I realized so much of the biome has to do with your overall health. That means stress levels and how toxic is your life. If you have relationships that are toxic, thoughts that are toxic, including the external environment, you can't heal. And that's what I found, was that when I started to meditate, do yoga, I mean, I was always active as an artist, like a dancer and an athlete. But when I started to focus on my breath work, that was really powerful. So there's a lot of tools, but specifically the organic superfood lifestyle. Had I not found it, I was always depleted and looking for food. It just didn't have the space and time. So it's really for high functioning people who need the highest level quality of food for their lifestyle to run. So that was the shift. It was really holistic lifestyle. And that's why I'm a holistic practitioner. And that's the route I went for my career for 22 years. I knew that if I could heal my body, I would love to help others feel amazing in theirs. Knowing what I know, that was the path that it led me to.
I love it. And I hear so many people, they try all kinds of different cleanses. Did you
Yeah.
try any of those cleanses?
A lot, like probably anything I can get my hands on. I just wanted to see if it would work because I was not well. I was always suffering with inflammation and racing thoughts. And yeah, I just couldn't keep my hormones balanced every single month. It was the same. So yeah, I did a lot of cleanses, the master cleanses, gallbladder cleanses, 21-day fasts, going vegan, going vegetarian, going keto, going paleo. So there's all different ways I eliminated, I tried, and that's the best thing anyone can do. You are your own doctor. You need to get to the root of your own healing. I felt what didn't work, and I just didn't want to go that route. However, gut health to me is the whole reason why I do what I do, which is to serve and help others, because when you suffer silently, like I know many of you are, coming to someone who has a solution that actually works changes your entire life. So it's really changed my entire life, having that security, and just as a woman, knowing I can raise my children balanced and mentally focused and in my best self, in my best shape. So thank you for asking. All right. So yes, these are some ideas of how to start to, since so many people have leaky gut, these are definitely good tips to balance your hormones and heal your gut. So saying goodbye to dairy, sugar, and gluten is very important. Elimination is the first step. And then the low inflammation lifestyle, which is what I definitely highlighted. Taz, do you want to talk about the uptake of more micronutrients and the blood sugar balance regimen?
Absolutely. Okay, so micronutrients, this is so important. This is vital for our cells to be functioning. We hear always about mitochondrial function. What does that mean? We need micronutrients. For ATP to happen, for that energy to happen in our bodies, we need micronutrients. How does the uptake of micronutrients happen? It happens in our gut lining, and it won't happen if we have gut permeability. So that's what Carmela was talking about at the beginning with the tight junctions, that we develop leaky gut, and all of the minerals that we're eating does not go into our colon. It doesn't go into our body. It gets leaked out. It's exactly what it is. It leaks out. So then we feel depleted. And what happens when we feel depleted? Our thyroid suffers, our brain fog kicks in, ADHD happens. We become so exhausted and so depleted because we think maybe we're not eating the right food. So then we start looking at other different modalities to try to strengthen our immunity, when we should be looking at the phytonutrition. We should be looking at the micronutrition. And the phytonutrition is super important, right? Because balancing our blood sugar levels in the morning, all day, throughout the entire day is important. This is why you had this term break fast, right? As soon as it's time to break your fast, which I usually eat around 10:30, 11, you start off with a high protein. And then this will keep your blood sugar balanced throughout the entire day. When I was younger, I think we would start off with like Eggos or maple syrup, right? Sugar was always the first thing that we would introduce to our kids and ourselves. So understanding that that's not the way, and learning how to balance our blood sugar levels are super important.
I love that. And so important. Absolutely. So consuming fermented food and probiotics. So we're talking about gut health. It is a microflora that gets built. There's good and bad constantly in keeping a balance within you. So, and you can tell if you've eaten a beer and a pizza, how your body feels versus having an incredibly good Buddha bowl with a Purium smoothie. You know, the difference of that is the probiotics. What are you helping to build the beneficial bacteria and the beautiful microbiome that keeps you feeling in flow with your hormonal health, with your weight, your balance, your ability to sleep deeply. And there's so many aspects to how probiotics are really an important part of talking about healing our gut and having the best balance within your gut. And you're limiting antibiotic use and birth control. We are talking about this because it's really common, and it's a little too common, in my opinion. I personally have never used birth control. I've never wanted to go that route to balance my menstrual, because I felt like it's an indicator for blood health. And I study Chinese medicine, so your blood health, it actually tells you a lot about how you're doing with nutrition, with absorption, because you build blood through the food you eat. And when I knew I had a regular period, a sometimes very thin period, I wasn't absorbing. And so I knew immediately also when I healed my leaky gut that I was building healthy blood. My hair grew stronger. My periods were more balanced. So when you limit these disruptors of hormones, of our natural body functions, you really get to allow the gut to do what it needs to do for you, because it's so intelligent, has so many microsynapses. So we have to give it the environment to truly allow it to flow. Okay, let's pass it to Taz. So Taz has an incredible story about Crohn's disease. So take us back, Taz, to that time when you had a very acute scenario. What environment were you in? What was your life like at that time?
So I love how you started off talking about when you were 12 years old and your whole life. You know, a lot of people ask me, they're like, so how did Crohn's begin? Or tell me about what you started changing. Well, you know, you have to start connecting about when and where did it start? So for me, it started in high school. Okay. So I am a type A personality and the ultimate overachiever, right? So I keep all of my emotions within my gut. Right? We're going to have to understand this because our emotions lie there. Our feelings, everything, if we're suppressing it, it lies in our microbiome. And what happens is that the body cortisol level increases. Your body starts going through fight or flight. It doesn't know how to react normally. Exhaustion, I thought that was completely normal. Brain fog, I was addicted to caffeine. Only today I can reflect upon it and be like, well, that's why, because all of the things I was going through was leading up to my Crohn's disease, the attacks I started having. But it started off with being addicted to coffee, being the overachiever, always putting more pressure on myself to do more, right? How much more can I accomplish? So it starts from there. The emotion was a huge aspect. And what was happening? My gut was suffering. It was getting worse and worse. So you remember at the beginning when Carmela was mentioning all of the symptoms that starts? Well, of course, I had GERD. I had one of the worst case scenarios of GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Everything hurt me so much. I would have water and it would hurt. I had the worst period pains. Inflammation was normal in my life. It was a normal thing. You know why it was normal? Because it was normal with my mom. It was normal with my sister. It was normal thing in my family. We did not know how to live a life without inflammation. If you didn't eat and you were not bloated, was it a good meal? Right? So it became ingrained in us that being bloated was completely normal, right? Having brain fog was normal. All you need to do was maybe increase your caffeine intake. So these are all the symptoms that started at that age. And my background is in genetics. So I started to wonder about this, that is it genetic, or is it because my mom never really got to the root cause of this? This is why this passed on to me. We were living the exact same lifestyle. We all suffered from migraines. We all suffered from a form of IBS, but for me, it just became a lot worse. Everyone was just suppressing their symptoms in different ways. And like you, Carmela, I had no connections to food. So I come from an immigrant family from South America. So when we come to North America, we want to assimilate, right? So what does that mean? Processed food, candy bars, that's what I lived on. And dairy was my best friend. There was always platters to share of cheese platters. No. I got it for myself. I love dairy and I love milk. That was part of my daily routine in my family. My mom was always like, you need to drink milk. It does a body good. You need to build your calcium. You don't want to have brittle bones when you grow up, right? You need to be big and strong. So all of these thoughts were ingrained in me. So I never formed any connection how the food I was eating was actually destroying my life.
Yep. Yeah.
And
yeah. And going from there, like I love hearing where you came from, because people always see you as somebody who's got it, who understands so much. But to be honest, we both came together and we're so passionate about our activism because what we've been through and what we know is out there to prevent. So tell me how then the reversal had gone for you.
well, let me just get to the worst stage. So I used to work in the genetics lab. And when I would have attacks, Crohn's is serious. These attacks, I would excuse myself from the lab, go into the bathroom, get into a fetal position, and be in agony. Have my moment, and then I would return back to the lab. I would be in the bathroom. It was a constant cycle. No one knew what I was going through. Everyone just looked at me and he said, well, you look great, so you must be fine, right? Well, I kept going through that for years until the Crohn's started manifesting on my skin. So I had eczema. They thought it was lupus all over my skin. And once it happened there was no avoiding it. I had to start looking at there. I need to find a solution. I need to find something, because none of my colleagues were ever presenting me with anything. Gut health, it's funny you talk about Hippocrates and gut health. No one understood that. No one was making the correlation back then, almost 2 decades ago. So I was on a lot of prescription drugs. I was on a lot of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So it's funny how it's anti-inflammatory, but it was actually causing me so much inflammation. And antibiotic, which we know antibiotics are anti-life, which destroys your complete microbiome, which makes everything worse. So I had brain fog. I had the worst type of leaky gut. I had really, really bad attacks. That's the way I would describe it. And I was always exhausted. And a great way to recognize Crohn's is a Crohn's face, always being puffy in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk more about Crohn's. And where does it start? What does it look like? What is happening in the body?
Absolutely. Okay, so Crohn's disease is an anti-inflammatory bowel disease that affects the digestive tracts. So it's a long tube that starts from the mouth to the anus, and it's responsible for breaking down food and nutrition, right? So I think if we start to understand that, then we would start making the connection with our food. But it's so interesting that no gastroenterologist actually makes a connection to our food and what we're putting in our mouths. So the exact causes of Crohn's, right? There's so many debates about this, is genetic, environmental, and immune factors. So the environmental is super important because that can affect our health. So sugar is one of the #1 things that can cause Crohn's. And processed foods. Well, I lived on processed foods and sugar and dairy, all of the worst type of foods, and bread. Give me a baguette and some chocolate bars, I would be the happiest person ever. But this is all I thought I needed. No one actually made a connection for me. And how about the immune factors, right? So this is really important because this is responsible for fighting off the germs and other things that we would get sick with, right? When we develop Crohn's, our immune system is overactive, okay? Which will be causing attacks to our digestive system. So that's why your body would feel attacked and you would go into a fetal position. And then the environment, right? We have glyphosate, we have non-organic foods, we have GMOs, we have heavy metals. We have so many things that attack our immunity. And then you have medications that contribute to Crohn's. NSAIDs are one of them. Antibiotics are another. You have so many other things. Surgeries, they wanted me to do surgeries, and thank goodness I followed myself and I refused. But a lot of people go down that path and it actually leads to more complications. So there's a couple of ways that you can manage Crohn's through nutrition. And balancing your macronutrients is really important. So this is because when you have Crohn's, you have a really hard time breaking down your foods, all right? So your protein, fats, and carbohydrates. But beyond that, your micronutrients are super important as well because your body is not absorbing any of these. So to balance out your micronutrients with your macronutrients, to avoid trigger foods. What does that mean? Okay, so high fiber foods, dairy, sugar, and bread, all that white processed food, because all of that white processed foods gets converted into sugar. And I don't know about you, but I grew up on all kinds of white food, all kinds of cereals, all of those colorful cereals that they felt like fruit to me as a child, and all of the breads, and not the healthy bread, the squishy bread that was full of sugar. And taking supplements. Okay, this is really important. So when you develop Crohn's, this was my experience. I was undernourished and I had really low iron and B12s. And when you go to the grocery store, you have an array of supplements there. But what happens is that these supplements are not bioavailable. So when you're buying all of these supplements, they're not actually working in your body. So what I like to say is, you're converting all of the supplements that you would buy in a grocery store that's not bioavailable. It becomes expensive pee, right? Because you're just peeing it all out and nothing is being absorbed into your body. So what I had to start looking at was food. Where can I find natural sources of iron and B12 and all of the micronutrients that pairs along with it? So that's really important. And then lastly, supporting your gut microbiome. So I had to start increasing my probiotics and my prebiotics. And then I had to start understanding and learning how to repair the tight junctions and the gut permeability, which we know our solutions is biomedic.
Okay. Well, thank you, Taz. That was amazing. And I know so many people in the field have been asking about Crohn's testimonials because there's so many more people who are coming up with this, and I appreciate you breaking this down and sharing how it's helped you so much. Okay, so I'm excited to bring on this topic of colitis. Now, as I went into the study of this, and we truly learn a lot from when we do these presentations because we get to dive deeper into colon health. And there are so many different colitises. So I listed some here and what they're caused by. In case you never heard of them, some people have mostly only heard of one, but there's many more. Infectious colitis, which is from a viral, parasitic, or bacterial infection, and it's from Salmonella and E. coli. If we've all heard about this enough, it's probably because there's so many people who've suffered from it. So Salmonella is very rampant. Pseudomembranous colitis, it often occurs after you take antibiotics. So it just tells you immediately, like, what is colitis? It's the inflammation in your colons, quite simply. And it's part of your large intestine. Your colon is the last leg of the journey your food takes through your digestive system. So the inflammation in your colon can affect the way the journey ends, causing pain, diarrhea, blood in your poo, pus, The inflammation is your body's response, though, to infection. So it is a good thing, but it creates intense discomfort, swelling, tenderness in the tissue. So it is quite debilitating. Number 3 is allergic colitis, which affects breastfeeding babies caused by food intolerances. So we know that we gain our own microbiome through our mother's microbiome, which is why the Million Mom movement is so dedicated to helping the mamas, because we create literally the biomes of the future. So we can start today with what we choose, because our body's cells change constantly. So just start today. Number 5 is the inflammatory bowel disease. So this is actually the most common. It's also grouped in with Crohn's. So Crohn's is a type of IBS. There's also microscopic and ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative colitis is what our guest is going to be coming on and talking about, which I'm really excited to have her share. And the last one is radiation. So it's the side effect of radiation. So there's so much that can go wrong if given these different, really look, bacteria, parasites, antibiotics, food intolerances, radiation. These are very harmful, and it really affects our body and directly the gut. So I'm going to call on our guest. Let me find her. Her name is Shakti Reina. Let me see. There she is. I just asked you to mute. Are you there, Shakti?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
How's everybody doing?
Wonderful. So good to have you, Shakti. Okay, so I love her story, guys. This is a woman who has been a coaching client of mine directly. She's in the Miami area. She's a holistic wellness advocate and practitioner. And when she'd first come to me, she was very sick. And I said, really? I could never tell. And you know how Taz was saying, people could never tell that she was truly sick. You don't realize just how many people are out there are suffering a lot with a lot of pain. So anyway, so Shakti, she's also a Reiki practitioner, a massage therapist. She teaches yoga, retreat, sound healing, beautiful vibration all together, and truly the healing that she had through her own experience with ulcerative colitis. So take us to that moment, Shakti, about how did it start? I know it was relatively recent, like a couple of years ago. Sort of what was the trigger did you see? Where did it start from?
Yeah, well, I think everything started because I had a past of like a lot of alcohol abuse and smoking cigarettes and, you know, the party scene in my younger years. And also I had a very stressful life because I was bartending, and I was also handling my bachelorette in dramatic arts and started my acting because I also did some acting. So auditions and this and life happening caused me a lot of stress. And then, you know, like when the pandemic happened, I guess that was like, you know, the cherry on the top, because that's when I really start feeling like, okay, something is not right. I'm getting, you know, very bloated. I hear strange noises in my lower belly, and I feel kind of like different. When you also connected to your body, any changes you start noticing, and I gratefully was always been connected to my body through my yoga practice and my wellness lifestyle. So I immediately noticed that something was not right. And then I was constipated constantly. Not mentioning that I started to go to the bathroom all scared of going to the bathroom, because every time I went to the bathroom, sometimes I couldn't do it. And sometimes it was just, you know, blood coming out from the back. So I went to the doctor. Long story short, I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. It was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very rough path. I have to say that sometimes I just fall into my knees and praying to God, like, please help me to find a solution. Because my gastroenterologist, when he gave me the results back from the colonoscopy, literally he just emailed them to me and for me to read them. And of course, I freak out because it says words. And of course, the first one that I saw that kind of was blinking to me was colon cancer. So I was like, oh my God, like I what? And then I saw different results. So my personal doctor is an radiologist, which I'm always more trusty with alternative medicine. And I hope this doesn't insult anybody here. I always trust more alternative medicine. And so my doctor called me back and he's like, no, you're not have cancer. This is just telling you what it could happen if you don't take care of your condition soon. So I started to, take the antibiotics that gastroenterologist doctor gave it to me. And a week later, I started feeling my liver like, I don't know if it was that but it just happened right after a week that I started taking antibiotics that the doctor recommended me. And I was like, oh, this cannot be good, right? Like, I never trust antibiotics. So I stopped taking them all along because I didn't wanted to see what happened if I kept taking them. So that's when my journey started in trials, just see what foods were agreeing with my stomach, and also foods that didn't activate a flare, because it can come anywhere, and when it comes, it's scary. If you ever
So
suffer, I guess.
at that time, Shakti, I remember it was really hard for you to eat and appetite. So what were you able to do that made it feel better?
Well, I was drinking a lot of pineapple juice with turmeric and ginger, but mainly pineapple juice. So yeah, like I buy books from the medical medium to follow recipes and just to learn what, the journey in learning what was good for my body and what not, and what also activate like the flare-ups. And it was just back and forth. I never, I was telling Carmela that, in the past 3 years, is the first time that I haven't had a symptom in 2 months. Like literally, I will go like 2 weeks, 3 weeks without a symptom, and then going back at having all of these. Colitis, ulcerative colitis is very uncomfortable because when you feel like you want to go to the bathroom, there's no waiting time. Like you gotta be near a bathroom, otherwise you better have like a second pair of leggings or a change of clothing, because it will happen. And also is when it's a flare up, I don't need to disgust anybody, I'm just trying to be informative in here.
Go ahead.
What was my experience before the supplements of Purium, and prior to that, I had a bad relationship with the bathroom, because when I was going to the bathroom, it was only mucus and blood and gas coming out of it. I was constipated. I had to be 20 minutes in the toilet praying that I will poop. Sorry for being so specific.
No, it's okay.
So yeah, it was a few times that I felt like, okay, I'm either gonna die, like it's gonna become cancer and I'm gonna die, or I'm just gonna have to live with this feeling of not having a social life, because in any moment you can have cramps, and like the pain that it comes is just so strong. And sorry, I'm getting sentimental remembering that. And so yeah, it was not fun, and I didn't felt myself for a long time, because you don't want to go around the world and saying like, hey, well, I have to be close to a bathroom because I have ulcerative colitis, or I don't want to go to like a run because I might get like the feeling of going to the bathroom. So you literally cannot do anything. And I am just so blessed right now because it's the first time in 3 years that I feel myself again, and then I can do my life and do my yoga without worrying that I have to get out of in the middle of my yoga class to go to the bathroom, because literally this was my life prior to the supplements. So now that I've been taking the supplements, my life literally transformed. I feel like Carmela saved my life when she offered me. She's like, "Hey, listen, you gotta really go give it a try to these supplements. I'm sure they're gonna help you." And then I started meeting the beautiful community, and I heard Taz's story, and I heard some other people's stories about how they have healed conditions that they kind of limitate their living experience. And that's why I'm like so passionate about being here in this community, and I'm loving it because beside all the support that we get constantly from everybody, it has given me the hope that I am going to have a better life. Like I finally see a light in the end of the tunnel, and I am happy, and I'm like, I feel like there's actually a way that I can have a normal life again, because it's been 2 months since I have any symptoms, and I am like back to normal. I go to the bathroom normally. My relationship with my toilet is back to be strong, we're buddies again. Now I am not scared to go to the bathroom. I'm not scared to go in for a run, or to go to the beach with my friends. I'm not scared. I don't have to take a second pair of leggings with me just in case. So
Yeah.
it's been a very transformative and sentimental change, because literally when you are in a situation where you feel your health is in trouble and you don't know if it's going to be a solution, and then this comes and someone comes and shows you like, hey, there's actually a way, you just need to give your body the proper nutrition, and we got it. So it's
Well,
God bless Purium, God bless everybody involved in it, and thanks to the founders that have bring access to the entire world for like healthy foods that have no chemicals, and you don't have to worry about reading labels and like, oh, well, is this really organic or not. It has made my life simple and hopeful. So for that, I'm forever grateful. And I hope if you know someone, or if yourself are struggling with some kind of gut health issue, then you are in the right place. And I hope we can, all of us, keep helping people around that need help, and that they don't feel comfortable sharing that they are actually sick. And this can reach out to many, 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 many more people around and help everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shakti. I love the turnaround. I love the reversal. It's really, and you were resistant upon it at first too. So sometimes that's just how it is. It's when it's your timing. But I really appreciate your share here today. And
well, I guess I didn't come true because I was not really like, unfortunately for some of us, sometimes you gotta hit bottom and have a condition for you to give yourself the chance to try things that you should have tried way before. So I hope, nobody is like me that waits until you have the sickness to try things.
absolutely. Yes, I love that message. It's really important. Okay, well, I'm going to pass it now to Taz. Taz, back to you. We're now going to get into SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shakti, for your story. And on this call, we are showing you how your body can be supported through nutrition, and you don't have to deal with this. There is a way out. I've been under remission for the past 14 years, and your body is amazing. And if you put in the right conditions, this is what can happen. So I would love to present you with my next testimonial, who's an incredible human, Ashley Thompson. So she's a critical care nurse, and she's a homeschooling mama of 4. And she has an incredible story about SIBO. So Ashley, I will unmute you and please share your story.
Hello, everyone. My story, I just started Purium back in February, so I'm still in the process of healing. But I've just been amazed just from starting the products and everything, that the changes within 2 days, I could see a huge difference. And my autoimmune journey first started about 5 years ago after my family moved into a new home and after the birth of my 4th child. I started to have kind of small symptoms of weight loss, hair loss, bloating. I was having abdominal pain after eating, just things didn't feel right. I figured it was part of the postpartum issues. Maybe my body was balancing. Went to the doctor several times. They said not to worry about it, that, I had my 4th baby. I was in the middle of breastfeeding. They actually encouraged me to wean my child early, saying that my symptoms were based on hormone fluctuations and breastfeeding, and that I would feel better once I weaned him and I got some nutrients back and it was normal. That basically I was like every other mom out there, I was normal. Unfortunately, things did not get better. Things started to worsen as time went on. I went through 3 more doctors till I started to kind of get answers. At that point, my symptoms had worsened so bad that I was having pretty significant weight loss. I was having trouble eating. At one point, at my worst, I was on like bone broth soups because I couldn't digest very much. Even taking pills, one of my doctors was a holistic doctor. He had me on holistic herbs. I could not even take pills because my stomach would cramp. Just with the pill fibers, I could not digest anything. My body, as I try to explain to them, I said it was shutting down. It is in such a state of shock. It can't eat, it can't digest, it can't do anything, it's giving up. So it took 3 doctors for me to finally be diagnosed with leaky gut. He diagnosed me with SIBO, malabsorption issues, which at that time I didn't know it was all caused from mold toxicity. Upon further diagnosis, I think it was back in this last August, found out that I actually had 600 pounds of mold in my house that was triggering my widespread autoimmune condition. I had everything from thyroid issues to gut issues, adrenal fatigue. It was like a cancer that was eating my body. I was losing like 2 pounds a week, down to skin and bones at my worst. And trying to work as a critical care nurse, it's hard to help other people when you're just as sick as the patient that you're taking care of, if not sicker. I feel like telling them to scoot over. I'm going to crawl in the bed with you because I should be here with you, but I'm functioning. That's the thing, is people with autoimmune gut issues, things like that, is we're pretty strong women, and men too, that have it, because we're out there functioning. You can't just curl up in a fetal position and stay home all day. You got a family to take care of. You've got to get out and work. You got to make an income. So you fight through the symptoms. I had a quote that I came across that, people with chronic illnesses, that they're not faking being sick, they're faking being well. And I had years, a good 5 years, where I was faking being well just because I was told that I was normal and everything was normal, and it wasn't. I did meet Tass. I met her at a healing retreat back in December. She did introduce me to the power of Purium. She did a wonderful workshop there where she told me a little bit about her story and mirrored kind of some of my own symptoms. And as a nurse, I knew that nutrition was huge. I've been a nurse for 15 years, and I've heard of patients healing themselves from cancer doing alkaline diets. And I knew the possibility of, trying to add more organic foods into your body, that it would heal your body. And I was eating organic. I was on an AIP diet for the last year. I was doing holistic herbs. I was doing saunas and binders. I wasn't getting any better. My holistic doctor, he didn't know. He told me, do research. He's like, I don't know why you're not getting better. And I told him, I said, it's nutrition. My body is completely stripped. I like to think of mold as a black ninja that just goes into your body and messes everything up. He stole everything from me. He stole my ability to digest, my ability to use nutrients. My body it was like a cancer that was eating my body alive. And my body wasn't broken. It was starved, it was injured, and it needed help. And when I started Purium, within 2 days, it was a night and day difference. I text Tass and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my brain fog, I can think, like my brain fog that I've had chronically for a year has just eased off. I started gaining weight. So I've started Purium in February. I've been able to put 8 pounds on, not only of weight, but I'm actually able to build muscle back. I was having pretty significant muscle loss, and it's horrible to say when you have 4 children and 2 of them weigh more than I do, and they're able to pick me up and carry me around my house. They could even see the changes in myself as well. The super amino acids were just having that vegan protein to be able to supplement. My body was so sick, it wasn't able to digest nutrients. Everything stressed it out. My body was overwhelmed. So even digestion was overwhelming for my body. And I was wasting away, and this has been easy for my body to use, easy for my body to digest. I don't have any more cramping. The bloating is way down. I'm actually able to tolerate foods that I wasn't able to tolerate at the beginning of my journey. I'm actually able to implement a little bit more back into my diet. And it's just been a night and day difference, to realize that my body wasn't broken, it was screaming for help, and a lot of people aren't in tune with their body to listen. They put it in the mute button for years and wait till their body is so broken down that repairing is what takes so much time. So it's just, I'm no longer dying of my autoimmune illness, but I'm actually healing and thriving from it. And it's just, it's a huge sign of hope. I know my progress is because I've been sick for a good 5 years, and being a nurse myself, I was turned down by the healthcare system. I was turned away and told I was normal. It's empowered me to kind of go forth and educate people that, listen to your body, be your advocate. And food is medicine too. Don't just jump on antibiotics because in a life-saving situation, it's going to save your life, true. But, do other things naturally to try to heal yourself, because unfortunately I'm a product of medicine where I was blasted as kids with antibiotics. I was blasted for every little toe pain, ear infection. I had malabsorption or methylation issues as a kid. So all these wrong choices of being raised and how healthcare has kind of pushed things on you is created the perfect environment that once I was exposed to molds, my body just gave up. But it's every day I'm seeing an improvement. Every day I'm seeing, I'm getting better, and my kids even see that. They're like, Mom, have you had your Purium shake today? They're bringing me my stuff, because they want me to get better too. So.
What an amazing story. Thank you so much, Ashley. And this is why we bring this information. This is why we do these calls, to give you all hope of there is a solution out there, and you don't have to pretend that you feel good. Like what Ashley said, all those years of pretending, that really struck me when you said that, because that's exactly what I was doing and many other people do. We just live on survival. We don't think that there's a solution. So Carmela, let's go into the solutions.
I have to agree with you, Taz. Like Ashley, I can completely relate. All of us, all 4 of us actually had looked perfectly fine the outside, and nobody really knew what it was, the root. So yeah, I'm so happy to be able to bring these stories and for yours.
Thank you.
Okay, so many people were asking in the chat, what are the ladies' protocols? What were all of our protocols? We saved this for last, and we can go into our recommendations and why. I know Shakti, if you wanted to share it, it was your ULT, Ella Digest, Ionic Elements. And really, this has been just 2 months of her on these products, and her symptoms that have been with her for 3 years have gone away. So I'm always telling people, go for a 90-day path. If you have an acute itis, any kind of inflammation, the key is the 90-day path. And that starts with the ultimate lifestyle transformation. This is the base pack to get the detoxification direct to your gut through the super cleanser. You'll get the biomedic, the really a swap of 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day for 30 days. So this allows us to clean up whatever acidic foods that we were so married to, which maybe have been contributing to it. It definitely was contributing to it. And then what we also have here, well, with the 4-pack of the biomedic, we really want to highlight biomedic because it's claimed to, by the Detox Project, of its healing ability to seal the leaky gut by 35% within 6 weeks. That to me spoke really loudly, because it did in fact take time. It's not immediate, but that's why we invest in our gut health and healing. There is a 4-pack. The second is that the CRP drops, so the inflammation marker, and then the glyphosate detoxification. 74% of the glyphosate is removed from the gut within 6 weeks. So again, the 90-day path is a true path to gut health and healing. Taz?
Yeah, I love all of these paths that we can take to support our immunity and to support our body, whatever it's going through. So the alkalizing pack is great as well. I would always pair this with a juice bar in a bag, or pair this with the grain-free pack as well. So if you have SIBO, depending on which phase you're in, because some people are in a worse stage than others, the grain-free pack is great paired with the alkalizing pack. The family nutrition pack is great as well. It's going to be balancing your blood glucose level in the morning. So you start off your morning with your protein, and then you end your day with your delicious apothecary. And then you have the enzyme advantage to help support the protein breakdown. The kamut is great as well because it really alkalizes your body and your whole system. And the kamut is actually Egyptian wheatgrass. So a lot of people don't know about this special grass that we actually have a proprietary on it. And it's one of the undermining products of our Purium. And this is what actually started me on my journey. The kamut and the whole juice bar is how I began, and eliminate the dairy, eliminate all of the inflammatory foods. So any of these could be great for you to begin your journey. And I absolutely agree with Carmela that it needs to be 90 days, because this is not an overnight thing. This takes time. The time that it took for your body to be destroyed by these symptoms, now we need to be repairing it. So at least 90 days.
And some of the different conditions we talked about, like SIBO and even colitis, often the medical recommendation is to have low fiber. But if we're doing regenerative health for the gut, we actually need to have collagen boosting, protein necessary. We need fiber. So we kind of have a different food philosophy than what's probably recommended by doctors. But the average American gets 10 grams of fiber, women 25. So it really creates more constipation. And that's what we want to increase in with all of these foods. They're the whole food. It's a whole plant intact. So you're still eating whole foods. It's not just powder supplements. So some people don't like that fact, but in fact, we are eating whole foods, which really helps your colon and your digestive tract to absorb, especially in these specific cases. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Taz?
Well, I love that you brought up the fact about the fiber, because that's exactly true, because this is not Metamucil. This is actually eating, you're absorbing nutrition, right? This is not just, that psyllium that's moving things along. This is actually very beneficial.
Mm-hmm. And the average American does not get enough. And that's why there's so many issues as well, because through the colon, we need to be moving energy. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for staying a little bit extra. And the guests, wow, Ashley and Shakti, I'm really happy to meet and hear your story, Ashley. And I would love to see you both back in the community. Taz, thank you as well. And please share this on from our YouTube channel. You can find it. Please also go to our Facebook official and group page under Million Mom Movement, our Instagram page under Million Mom Movement, and please share this episode on. Bye for now.